Hebrews chapter 4. We're going to identify the last 3 verses in Hebrews chapter 4, verses 14 through 16. Hebrews chapter 4, verses 14 through 16. Again, we're going to be all across the Bible tonight. All of it's going to be centered and very thematic in the presentation. So if you want to write down a title, the title tonight is Effective Intercession. Effective intercession. Effective intercession. And I know this is what I'm supposed to teach tonight. God just has a way, and I don't know if he does all preachers and pastors like this, Sister Lipscomb. I don't know. That's not even really my concern. But he has a way with me that he'll allow something to strike me during the week. And when it strikes me, he has a way of letting me know if it struck me for me or if it struck me for y'all.
Okay. That's pretty good.
It's so interesting because it's like some stuff I'll hear or I'll run across, and then hearing it and running across it, I'm like, that's good. And sometimes I just leave it there at that's good. But then the Lord will say, no, go a little further than it's just good. So on Monday, I got a call from a young lady, and she's not connected to the ministry, or to this particular ministry at all, but I just got a call from her, and she had a question, and she was talking about dreams or visions. And so what I appreciated about her was she kind of gave me a preview. She called me and said, hey, you got a few moments? I said, yeah, sure, I got a few moments. She said, I want to ask you a question relative to visions. She said, but I'm on my way home, and I really want to be able to hear what you got to say, so I'm going to call you back in about 30 minutes. So I said, well, that's good. You give me an opportunity to do some research. You give me an opportunity to kind of prepare my heart. And so when I talked to her, she began to tell me about how she felt as though, or she wanted to get clarity on if a vision could come from the enemy. And I said, that's good. Yes, let's really dig into it. And I thought that's where I was going to teach us tonight. But that's not what the Lord had. So I said, okay. So again, he has a way of showing me what's good for me, and then what I need to teach, the people. So we had that conversation, and maybe some things have come up. But I will say this: if you ever get posed that question, a vision cannot come from the enemy. All right. Let me make sure you understand that. This is just a prelude. I'm giving you this for free. This is just for being here tonight. Sidebar. I'm gonna take my wife to the movies sometime, and when I ordered tickets online, they gave me a free download for ordering the ticket. So tonight you get a free download. With the lesson, this is just a free download. All right. Visions always are God breathed. Okay, visions and dreams that are. Now let's deal with visions first. Visions are always God breathed. Now, does that mean everything I see is of God? The answer is no. What happens, Tony, is God will give you vision, but in so doing, the enemy has the ability, this is one of our words here, to pervert what it is that God is showing. So let's use me. Let's say the Lord says, or the Lord was giving me a vision, Sister Lipscomb, for the ministry, which he has. But let's say he's giving me a vision for the ministry. And in this vision, when I get a view of me, I'm a woman. Okay? Well, we know that's been perverted. Because even though what was breathed or what was shown in the vision was intended to be or was God breathed, because the enemy has spiritual principalities, and because he has rulership in high places, he has the ability to pervert what was intended to be pure from the mouth of God. So in what she saw somebody that was going into the hospital. And, she said, well, you got to help me understand how, this isn't from the enemy. I said, well, it very well may have been a situation where that person could have been dealing with something that was sickening, something where this person may have been headed towards some type of injury or some type of malady. But just because you saw him in the hospital doesn't mean that God says this person's going to the hospital.
Yeah.
Could be spiritual. Could be something unseen. And that's where the text came, or that's where the thought came from the night when I was talking, and we began to talk about intercession. And I said, this needs to be dealt with. And so that's what we're going to deal with tonight, effective intercession. Now, okay, I ain't going to do us like, now maybe when we get 50, when it's 50 people, I'll do this. But tonight I'm not going to do it. I'm gonna just talk tonight. But oftentimes, Minister Black, we've been saved for X number of years.
That's right.
But if somebody were to ask us very basic biblical questions, right, we have the tendency to be a little hazy on our understanding. So I said, Lord, help me to present intercession in the way that'll keep us from being hazy if somebody ever asks us what it really means to intercede. As I was talking to this young lady and we began to talk about intercession, she said, I need you to help me on intercession because even though I'm churched, even though I'm saved, even though I go to Bible study, even though I hear good preaching, intercession has to be more than me just saying, don't let any hurt, harm, or danger come to. Intercession has to be more than me just saying, let their sleep be sweet. So help me, and this she went deep on me, help me, Pastor, to understand the meaning behind intercession. And I will help us tonight as God allowed me to help her.
Yes,
all right?
Yes.
First, let's start off with a base definition. This is all English, no Greek, no Hebrew yet at this point. The English definition for the word intercession simply means, that's Sky, you all right. No. Intercession is the act of intervening on behalf of another. The act of intervening on, please underline on because it's got significance, on behalf of another. The act of intervening on behalf of another. Now, when one is intervening, that means this person serves as a go-between for one party and another. All right? The way God showed this thing to me on the spot yesterday, this thing was so good, Black,
yes.
That intercession is like unto a lawyer. Okay? The lawyer's job is to go between his client and the judge and to make the judge convinced about the innocence of the one he's defending. Now, in order for the lawyer to do this effectively,
this is good.
there oftentimes requires, Deaconess Black, what they like to call pre-trial walkthroughs. Whereas the lawyer is talking to his client to say, listen, I need you to tell me everything you know about the situation. And I also need you to let me know anything about you that might come up that's detrimental.
Oh, this is good, sir.
Oh, God, this thing is getting better all the time. So the lawyer, Diaviana, has to take the time to get to know the intimate side of the person, even when that what they're intimate about may not even be before the judge in the trial.
Right.
All right. If I'm going because I got a speeding ticket and I'm trying to get out of the speeding ticket, the lawyer may say, Mr. Hinton, can you let me know if you ever had any DUIs?
How about that?
Now, it don't have nothing to do with why I'm going to court. but it's got something to do with my character. So in order for one to make intercession on another's behalf, they've got to be able to either vouch for or explain your character. Oh man, you might want to write that down. In order to make intercession, you've got to either be able to vouch for or explain the person's character. Oh, God, help me to teach real good tonight. In order, Minister Black, for me to vouch for your character,
Yes, sir.
I've got to really have a real knowledge of who you are.
That's right.
I really, if I would just pick you up and I'm saying, well, I'm going to be a lawyer for you, well, I at least need to see if we can catch each other for 10 minutes before the trial.
Absolutely.
I need you to really talk. I need to know that in talking to you, you're going to just start cussing.
Yeah, that's real.
I need to know if you're really pure so that I can at least attempt to explain the character I know of you in this brief amount of time. So in order to intercede, I've got to be able to vouch for, or I got to know, be able to defend or vouch for the character of the person I'm going to the judge for. All right, let's take a look at this. We're in Hebrews chapter 4. That's where we're going to kind of start tonight. And it's going to build from here. I'm going to just give you the good stuff up front, and then we're going to build on that. Hebrews chapter 4, verses 14 through 16. Hebrews chapter 4, verses 14 through 16. I got to read some scripture to make my teaching make sense. Hebrews chapter 4, verses 14 through 16. The word of the Lord says this. Seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into the heavens, Jesus the Son of God, let us hold fast our profession. For we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Now, the reason Pastor has to start here tonight is I'm trying to show us two sides of Christ. All right? The side of Christ that was suspect to temptability, and the side of Christ that ruled in impeccability. All right. Temptability and impeccability. It is mandatory that we understand that Christ, Diaviana, had the ability to be tempted. But even in having the ability to be tempted, he was still impeccable. All right. Many times, Harrison, people will argue that because Christ was all God, he really couldn't effectively be tempted the same way we can. They argue that because of his impeccable nature, it was impossible for him to really be tempted. But I've got to bring some clarity tonight that it was the humanity of Christ that put him in a position to be subject to being tempted. Yet the divine nature of Christ says that even though you can be tempted, you cannot sin. People will say that Jesus' temptation, Deaconess Black, was lessened because of the fact that God wouldn't allow his perfect nature to sin. I want to argue that his temptation was intensified because he had no choice but to stand.
Yes.
It's easy for me, Sister Lipscomb, if I got a way out. But it's tougher when I got to stick through it.
Yes.
So the temptability of Jesus says that temptation can try me. The impeccability says that even in the face of being tried, I got to continue to stand.
Wow.
So the temptability says I'm liable or I'm subject to be tempted. The impeccability says that I'm not liable to fall for the temptation. So in order for Christ to be able to effectively intercede on my behalf, he had to be in a position where he could be tempted, but yet perfect enough not to fall prey to the temptation. So when one is interceding for another, they've got to already have been tempted, but yet be perfected that they don't fall prey to what they're trying to pray you through.
Oh, goodness. Oh, my goodness.
So what are you saying, Pastor? I'm saying just because you saved, that don't make you an intercessor. Teach Hinton. Just because you can speak in a few tongues, that don't make you a real intercessor.
Just a few.
But because a real intercessor says, I've been tried in this, but I've been proven not to fall by what I'm praying you through.
Wow. Next level.
So if I'm dealing with something in my mind, if I'm dealing with a mental issue,
yes,
and the enemy's really he's run roughshod in my mind before, I had to have come out of that state of my mind being all over the place before I'm capable of interceding for another. Because if I have not been proven in the place of crazy, when I try to intercede for somebody that is there, I'm going to find myself just as crazy as them.
Oh, it's getting better. It's getting better.
I'm going to fall prey to what I'm going to be praying them through.
Yes, sir.
Because I was never perfected out of what I'm trying to intercede about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And many times the church gets so off-center and so off-kilter because you got all these many intercessors around here, but nobody's been perfected.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm on the prayer call, but I'm still cussing. Help me. How can I pull you out of something when God has not yet perfected that thing in me? So Christ has to be in a place where he's capable of being tempted, but yet he's been perfected against the thing which he was tempted by. Yes, talk to me.
So back to the vision.
Yes.
That leads to a call to intercession.
Yeah.
So is the answer, or could the answer to that be found in? Because you're not going to see anything.
You saying it?
That you haven't been tried and perhaps perfected in.
You're saying it. Yes. That's exactly what I shared with the other lady.
So don't go in trying to intercede for something that because you're not gonna see it right.
Yes. And you're gonna find yourself in the place you thought you were praying somebody out of, you're now in that place. Because if I never get perfected through that, when my mind takes me back there, my emotions gonna join me. But when I've been perfected there and my mind takes me back there, my emotions stay centered because God already completed that in me. So what I shared with the young lady was, you really should be thanking God that he made you privy to see this. Because maybe that's a sign that he's perfected you in that now you've got the strength to pray them through that. He's not going to show you something that you can't effectively intercede for. He just wouldn't do it. That's just not God. He wouldn't even allow the enemy to do it at that level because he knows it would be more detrimental to you than it would be for your good. So Christ has to be tried by the enemy. He has to go through what he goes through. The temptability had to be in his life that he in fact could now be a legitimate intercessor on our behalf. Note we said that the word intercession says an active intervening on the behalf of another. All right, let me not mess with that right now. I'm going to give you the Greek, one of the Greek words for intercession. The Greek word for intercession is entongkeno. Entongkeno is actually spelled E-N-T-U-G-C-H-A-N-O. Entongkeno. Entongkeno. E-N-T-U-G-C-H-A-N-O. Entongkeno means, of course, it says the Greek word for intercession, but it means to confer with. It means to entreat. And it means simply to make intercession. So I thought out this was going to be point one, but I already gave you a point one. So point two would be the intercessor must have endured temptation and suffering while embracing temptability in the pursuit of impeccability. The tempter, or the person making intercession, the intercessor, must have endured temptation or suffering while embracing temptability. I'm explaining this in a minute. In the pursuit of impeccability. How, Minister Black, does one, that is rhetorical, how does one embrace temptability? How does one hug temptation? Oh, help me to teach tonight, Jesus. Sister Lipscomb, the scripture teaches us that temptation in and of itself is not a sin. Okay? Temptation is not a sin. If temptation was a sin, then Jesus died in vain. Because Jesus was in fact tempted. All right? So if temptation was a sin, that would disqualify Jesus from being able to die on our behalf. So we know through Jesus' life that temptation itself is not sin. However, it is the yielding to the temptation that leads one into sin. So it is my job as a believer to learn how to embrace or to accept temptation, because that is the thing that causes my impeccability to be perfected. Without temptation, Frederick Douglass, this is one of my boys back in the day, used to say this. This was on his voicemail. In the words of the great Frederick Douglass, without struggle, there is no progress. So without there being temptation, without there being a measure of struggle against me, I never get to a place of true perfection. Scripture says it this way in Hebrews chapter 5, verse 8. It says, though he were a son, yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered. This is speaking of Jesus. So Jesus Christ learned impeccability. He learned obedience by the things that he suffered. So, Minister Black, I've got to learn that in life there are going to be temptations that arise and face me in my daily journey.
Right.
I've got to be willing to say I'm not going to run from it, because if I run from it, I never get perfected through it. Right. I'm learning how to embrace what comes against me, because what's coming against me is designed to perfect me. So when God has a way, and I love him for it. He's so real. He has a way that when you feel like you really might have gotten there, when you feel like you really might have checked the box, when you feel like, yeah, I can put my feet up and drink lemonade, he said, let me introduce a temptation to you out of left field. Because I need you to remember that even though you may have overcome this, there's still a that you've got to overcome.
Come on. That's good.
He wants us to overcome the thises, but he's going to always keep us humble by the that's.
Yes, sir.
You might be over going to the club. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. But that attitude is still being worked on. So that this you were delivered from, but the that, you still got to pray about. All right. So I've got to embrace the temptation. He says, welcome the temptation so that you can pursue impeccability. Let me give you some definitions. All right. Temptability was very easy. It's simply the ability to be tempted, the quality or state of being temptable. That's what temptability is. Because we're in this human flesh, we have the ability to be tempted. Okay. It also means the liability to temptation. That's temptability. Now, impeccability means while you're temptable, you're not liable to sin. In a degree, you are faultless and flawless. Impeccability. The temptation or the ability to be tempted is present. However, I'm not liable to sin.
Okay.
Can be tempted, but the liability to sin is gone. This is why in the note I gave it says that we're pursuing or in pursuit of impeccability. Because that's going to be something we're going to pursue until Jesus gets here. Because the reality is, as long as we are in this fleshly tabernacle, the liability to sin will exist. However, there are certain things, Minister Black, that God, and this is your pastor, really, this is what I believe. There are things that God will give you the ability to be impeccable in. I believe if you really got a heart for God, and it's something that, okay, I'll use me. It's certain things that I just know I won't do. It's just period. Like drinking. I've never drank an alcoholic beverage in my life. In my mind, I'm not even liable to drink because I don't have no desire to.
Perfected.
So, because there's a measure of perfection.
Yes.
But I have to go through the trial of telling folk, no, I don't do this. Right. No, I'm good. Right. No, leave me alone. In order for the impeccability, the lack of being liable to fall showed up. So I do believe that God will give you the grace to be impeccable in certain areas. But he's not going to give us, until we get to heaven, the complete impeccability. Because then we would be him.
How about that?
And this is the heaven part, Black. With the knowledge that I'm still liable to, it's my job not to do what I'm liable to do.
Wow.
I understand that the ability to do it exists. But it's my job to fight the ability to do it.
My impeccability.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I got to be willing to say, I'm not going to do this.
Yes, sir.
Even though nobody's looking, even though nobody's around, even though I'm 5,000 miles from home, I'm still not going to do it. Because I'm working on my impeccability.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, next point I'm going to give you is this. We must have, the intercessor must have a relationship with God. Okay? First thing I said, well, one of the things I said was that the intercessor, must have endured temptation or suffering while embracing temptation, the pursuit of impeccability. We gave you that. Now this is the next point. The intercessor must have a relationship with God while understanding and accepting God's will. The intercessor must have a relationship with God while understanding and accepting God's will. That's probably one of the most difficult parts about intercession, is because true intercession says that my prayer is not what I want, but my prayer is God's will. Now, that's why a lot of us pray, but a lot of us aren't necessarily interceding, because in our prayer, we're really praying what we feel is God's will. Then we'll get cute at the end and say, if it be your will, but our heart is so far from that. Our heart is, Lord, I want your will to match my will. Yeah, okay. Let's go to Romans chapter 8. Romans chapter 8. This is familiar, but this is good. Man, this is good. Romans chapter 8, I'm going to give you verses 26 and 27. We talked about some of this in First Principles a couple of months ago, but I got some greater light I want to shine tonight through the help of the Lord. So again, we said the intercessor must have a relationship with God while understanding and accepting God's will. All right. Romans 8, 26 and 27. The word of the Lord says this. Likewise, the Spirit also helpeth our infirmities, or our shortcomings, our maladies. For we know not what we should pray for as we ought. But the Spirit itself maketh intercession for us